also want to launch and let everybody know that we heard our members talk to us, and a special gift to our members for this World Radiography Day is this 4-module course on radiation protection. We have been attending meetings around the world with the IAEA and the WHO, and they are telling us that there is not standardization in the courses being taught on radiation protection. So we have launched our new course on our e-learning platform, and as a gift to our members around the world for World Radiography Day, take time to use this in your teaching with your students or just as a refresher course. Finally, I want to welcome everybody to this celebration. We know that the official day will be on Tuesday, and we want to share this day with all of you around the world. And we want to tell you, and take a picture with our ISRRT poster, post it on your Facebook page and link it to us, or else send it to us and we will share it, and let's celebrate together World Radiography Day. All our member countries around the world that are celebrating World Radiography Day, please take some pictures, do a small write-up, send them to our CEO, and we will get them in this issue of News and Views. And so let's begin our Facebook Live session, hearing from some excellent experts from around the world, talk about how the radiographer is at the forefront of patient safety.
Thank you, Donna. And now I would like to introduce our 4 speakers from across the globe. And the first speaker, we have Kitiwat Khamwan. Dr. Kitiwat Khamwan would represent Asia region. He is from Division of Nuclear Medicine, Faculty of Medicine, Chulalongkorn University in Bangkok, Thailand. And Kitiwat is also the director of the bachelor degree program in radiological technology or radiography program at Chulalongkorn University. And next we have Boniface YAO. He is the consultant radiographer and lecturer in medical imaging technology and radiation protection. And he is also our ISRRT director of Africa. The next person who represents the America is Myke. Myke is the Associate Executive Director of the American Society of Radiologic Technologists from the USA. And last, we have representative from Europe, Sigurd Sundland. He is the radiographer from Sweden. And Sigurd is also our past winner of ISRRT Samsung Best Practice Radiographer. So let's have the view from our specialists from all around the world, starting from Kitiwat.
Hi everyone, I am Kitiwat Khamwan from Chulalongkorn University, Thailand. Today I will talk about the patient safety aspect in therapeutic nuclear medicine. I would like to thank ISRRT for giving the opportunity for me to give a talk on the World Radiography Day 2022 in the themes of radiographer at the forefront of patient safety. This is the outline of my talk today. For the therapeutic nuclear medicine, the management of therapeutic patients are quite different from diagnostic patients. Due to the higher level of the exposure involved, the unsealed radionuclide in the form of liquid are administered orally or intravenously to treat the cancer patients. Therefore, these patients are allowed to leave the facility following the treatment, and only general radiation safety precautions are advised to these patients. So this is the document regarding the quality management audit in nuclear medicine practice or quantum to improve the quality of nuclear medicine practice and management at Nuclear Medicine Center. That published by the IAEA. This is the latest version of the Quantum 3.0 that just published recently last year. This is the checklist in the document that related to the radionuclide therapy in nuclear medicine. For the checklist 3 about the patient radiation protection, checklist 9 for radionuclide therapy, and the checklist 10, the assessment of the therapy. This is the example of the checklist component to ensure the clinical effectiveness and the safety of the patients. For example, for the checklist 9, are standard operating procedure SOP based on national and international guidelines available for all types of the treatment or not at your center? Does every patient receive information about the treatment, including the indication other treatment option or not? For pediatric patients, are relative or the caregiver informed about the radiation protection and the risk of attending during therapy? And this is the example of the component for the assessment of the therapy. For the patient identification, was the correct radiopharmaceutical prescribed or not? Activity measure before administration or not? The policy of the prevention of the misadministration to the patients. Imaging performed when required to check the biodistribution of radiopharmaceutical after the treatment. So this is the example of the component for the checklist according to the column to ensure the safety of the patient and the effectiveness of the treatment. What information should get from the patient before administering the radiopharmaceutical? Before the treatment, the patient should be carefully identified following the normal routine. The patient should be interviewed in order to get the necessary information for the safe treatment. And the topic should be included about the pregnancy, breastfeeding, incontinence, nausea, type of work, use of the public transport, and living condition. This information that provided by the patient will determine how the therapy should be administered and what restrictions in the patient's daily life are necessary in order to reduce the exposure to the other people. If it is anticipated that the patient will be unable to perform activity of daily living, confused, become incontinent of urine, have nausea or vomiting, or has other conditions which could complicate the post-treatment management, the nuclear medicine staff should inform and advise to the patients. Laboratory procedure requiring urine or blood specimen should be performed before the treatment is administered in order to evaluate the condition of the patients for the treatment. The oral and written explanation of therapy are useful to help the patient understand the nature of the treatment and any risk to the patient or the other person. The procedure should also be recorded in the patient medical record as well. This is the example of our nuclear medicine physician for the oral and written explanation to the patient before the iodine-131 administered for the thyroid cancer treatment. This is the example of the patient instruction. For the patient instruction, card should be provided to the patient before and after the treatment. And the important point is about the pregnant and breastfeeding for the women. We should notify that if the patient could be pregnant or breastfeeding, the patient should notify the staff before the treatment. And the patient must not become pregnant for at least 6 months after the iodine-131 treatment. This is the very important point. This table shows the recommendation for cessation of the breastfeeding for class R radiopharmaceutical, especially for the treatment, for example, in thyroid cancer by iodine-131, it needs for the counseling and the cessation for the breastfeeding is as well for these patients. For the criteria of the release consideration after the treatment, for the patient who received the administered activity of iodine-131 greater than 30 millicurie should be hospitalized. And the release criteria from the hospital, when we measure the dose rate at 1 meter, the dose rate should be less than 30 microsievert per hour. The patient who have been administered radiopharmaceutical for the treatment may expose member or the public upon the release. Therefore, the arrangement should be in place to manage the release criteria of the patients, and consideration should be given to the respective flow of the patient and visitor in the facility. And how about the relative and the caregiver after discharge? This is the recommendation from the IAEA. IAEA requires that the effective dose to any comforter or visitor, such as caregiver and family, should be unlikely to exceed 5 millisievert during the period of the treatment. Especially for the children, the level should be less than 1 millisievert. The various national and international discharge guidelines are designed to provide the compliance with these recommendations. And for the theranostic, it is very important point for the patient safety as well. This is the state-of-the-art treatment in modern nuclear medicine. The patient safety is very important, as I mentioned, due to the patient underwent both of the diagnostic and also radionuclide therapy from the alpha or beta emitter radionuclide. So this is the example of the lutetium-177 PSMA treatment. This is for the first patient in Thailand for the metastatic prostate cancer patient at King Chulalongkorn Memorial Hospital. So in order to ensure the safety for the patient after the treatment and before the treatment, we need to have a team like nuclear medicine physician, the nurse, technologists, and relevant people to involve in the treatment. And according to the concept of the theranostic, we see what we treat and then we treat what we see. And we would say that theranostic, this is the precision oncology. So the patient safety is very important for this concept. And sometimes the lutetium-177 could uptake in the normal organ due to the physiological uptake, such as in lacrimal gland, salivary gland, liver, spleen, small intestines, colon, and kidney. And this is the mask that used for the patients after the treatment, for the cold pack that used about half an hour after the treatment, in order to mitigate the high uptake for the lutetium-177, even though the iodine-131 at the salivary gland of the patients, in order to this could be improve the quality of life of the patients. And due to the increasing the number of the treatment in theranostic, so dosimetry is really important as well. So this is the step for the dosimetry calculation in radionuclide therapy. The first step, do the imaging like for the multi-time point acquisition based on the planar or the hybrid, or the planar with spec or the fully spec or the PET-CT based on the multi-time point imaging. However, the question is right now for the acquisition is, can we reduce the burden to the patient? And for the clinic due to the multi-time point imaging. So right now the single time point or STP imaging is proposed for several research groups. And then do the image reconstruction and perform the volume of interest segmentation by manual segmentation, that or we can do by the automated segmentation. And next step is the quantification for the calibration measurement. Can be standardized for this? Could we incorporate this step into the commercial system and then determine the time activity curve in the source organ and calculate the absolute dose estimation? Well, this is the example of the cumulative dose for the organ at risk in radionuclide therapy in nuclear medicine. So we concern for the red bone marrow about 2 gray and the kidney about 23 gray. So this is based on the external beam radiotherapy. So due to we still lack of the sufficient data for radionuclide therapy. So hopefully in the future, if we have more data, we can set up about the criteria for the organ at risk in nuclear medicine. Well, this is the example of the radionuclide therapy treatment planning using the commercial software for lutetium-177 DOTATED treatment for neuroendocrine tumor at our center. So you can see here. So the software can provide the ISO dose in the tumor and also in the organ at risk, like in the kidney, as you can see here. And it could provide a time activity curve and then the report of the absorbed dose in several organ at risk and also in the tumor. And then it could be provided dose volume histogram that we could determine how much of the percent coverage volume to the tumor that could be successfully treat the tumor and to avoid the toxicity for the organ at risk. So this is the example of the commercial software that used for the treatment planning in radionuclide therapy in order to ensure about the safety of the patient and avoid toxicity for the organ at risk. And well, this is the guideline about the treatment for the thyroid cancer for the patient who has the lung metastasis to avoid the lung toxicity for the iodine-131. Based on the extensive dataset analyzed by the Binua-Liper model, a whole body retention threshold about the 80 millicurie at 48 hours after injection had been used to limit the radioactivity of iodine-131 administered to the thyroid. So for those who are interested about this, so you can go to this publication. So this is really important to avoid the lung toxicity for the patient, as I mentioned. And then this is another publication regarding the utility of radioiodine whole body retention at 48 hours after injection for the thyroid cancer. So this is they have the table to recommend about the whole body retention, so that you should increase or reduce the activity of iodine-131 for the treatment. And the patient safety for the pediatric in nuclear medicine is very important point as well. So in order to reduce the risk from the sedation and reduce the fear for the scanner, this is the example of our project at King Chulalongkorn Memorial Hospital. This is the Kit Can Do project. This is the pilot project dedicated for the pediatric patient during the nuclear medicine examination. So after we run this project, so we could reduce the risk to the pediatric patient from the sedation due to the cooperation from the pediatric patients, reduce the fear for the scanner of the pediatric patient, reduce the radiation risk from the repeat scan or the examination. Well, for those who are interested about the patient safety in nuclear medicine, so you can go through the publication from the IAEA for the listed tissue. Luckily, I have a chance to share my experience in the patient safety in nuclear medicine in this ISRT publication as well. In summary, nuclear medicine technologies play an important role influence on the improving patient safety, and the frontline caregiver to raise the concern regarding the patient safety culture. When nuclear medicine procedures are performed correctly and appropriate patients, the benefit of the procedure very far outweighs the potential risk. Dealing with the patient with radiopharmaceutical, nuclear medicine technologies should be appropriate, trained, and certified, and should have comprehensive quality control measures in place to ensure that the patient receives the best, safest, and most appropriate care to avoid the unnecessary radiation exposure, delay, and incorrect diagnostic or treatment. That's all of my talk regarding the therapeutic in nuclear medicine. Thank you so much for your kind attention.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Boniface YAO, the Regional Director Africa of the International Society of Radiographers and Radiological Technologists, ISRRT, and I'm participating in this World Radiography Day ISRRT Facebook Live session, to present on the strengthening of medical imaging in the regional strategy of universal health coverage. This is a WHO African region project on the place of medical imaging in the strategy of health in our region. We're going to deal with 5 points coming from the background to set the scene, and then we talk about universal health coverage, and then the place of medical imaging in health services, and then we will come to the WHO project itself, and then finally the role of ISRT in this project. And for the background, let's say that all the 17 Sustainable Development Goals have implication on health and well-being, and especially the SDG 3 specifically focus on health, ensuring, well, through the declaration, to ensure healthy lives and promote well-being for all at all ages. And even the 13th WHO General Work Program aims to help all the world achieve these goals. And that's why it has been set 3 targets by 2023 that are 1 billion more benefit from universal health coverage, 1 million more people are protected from health emergencies, and 1 billion more enjoying better health and well-being. And all the United Nations member states have agreed to try this so as to achieve the universal health coverage by 2030 as part of the SDG. And even when we come to Africa and we try to see the state of health in our region, we see that for the contribution of all the dimensions of health outcomes, you see that the service availability, coverage, intervention, financial, and all these indices, well, the average is completely in the red, which means that all dimensions of service outcomes are underperformance in our country. And universal health coverage wants to solve this problem. But what is universal health coverage? You know that universal health coverage is the goal to ensure that all people obtain the health services they need without suffering financial hardship when paying for them. It also provides access to quality essential health services, safe, effective, and affordable essential medicine. Universal health coverage also enables everyone to access to health services and ensure that quality of service is good enough to improve the health of those people who receive them. And the challenges in our Africa as regard to medical imaging in health is the low level of awareness among the professionals and health policymakers, lack of integration of medical imaging and radiation safety into healthcare policies. All the policies and strategies which are made into the region, most of them don't take into account medical imaging. So these create huge disparities in access to health services, technologies, human and financial resources within the region. And the access to medical imaging, to stress on it, you know that every day, despite the fact that we all know that everyday application of radiation in health help millions of people, of patients worldwide, there's a substantial inequalities regarding access to medical imaging, and which is particularly critical in Africa. And in some cases where the access does exist, well, the quality and the safety are not priority, you see. Then what is the WHO Afro-US Universal Health Coverage Project? These projects will try, we have noticed that medical imaging has not benefited from sufficient interest and support in Africa, like a laboratory, you see, so that within the framework of universal health coverage, medical imaging will have to come out of its reserve for the privilege to be available to the greatest number of people. And imaging procedures will need to be incorporated in the standards of benefit package of essential health services. It's going, in one word, it's going to be taken into account in policies, in health policies. And so what are the steps? The first step is this strategic analysis that will give an image of the situation, of the current situation of the, so this will be done through a survey, so that the questionnaire that has been developed, this questionnaire is developed and finalized in 3 languages, English, French, and Portuguese. And this has gone through 2-level pilots. You see, the level 1 is the expert review to see if the questionnaires are well written, if they are logical, if they make sense. Yes. And then the level 2 is the pre-test in a small sample of countries. So these are the countries, and that concerns stakeholders, local champions, ministries, governmental people, and even radiographers, biomedical, and it concerns French-speaking African, as well as English African, and even Lusophones. So that for the sections, you've got 8 sections which are written, under which the questions are written, and then for each section, there are a number of questions, and then you've got suggested respondents, that people are target groups that they will respond. For the way forward, you'll have that 47 WHO Afro countries. The launch will be in February 2023, and the data and information collection, the period will be 6 weeks to collect the information. The analysis will be done by WHO around April and June 2023. And the ISRT is the voice of radiation technology, and we provide quality patient care, education, and research. Why? Just because we are dedicated, ISRT is dedicated to improvement of standards of practice in medical imaging, to improve the delivery of healthcare to people around the world. And there are some actions since 2010, the ISRT sponsored workshop in Africa. You see, these are really conferences or congresses that will be in Cameroon, in Cote d'Ivoire, in Kenya, in Togo, in Nigeria, in Rwanda, in Kinshasa, and so on. And the ISRT will collaborate with the WHO through this project to contribute to it through sensibilization of actors, radiographers, service managers, clinical leaders, and involvement of radiographers of all personnel working in medical imaging and radiotherapy departments are for ISRT, and also ISRT provide technical assistance for the implementation of the strategy. And even the ISRT upcoming workshop in Benin is stressed on the theme medical imaging in the regional strategy of UC. It's for sensibilization. Okay? This will be in November. And the WHO Afro project is carried by WHO, and this is an initiative to enhance the already fruitful cooperation with the ISRT in the field of medical imaging. So you should all join us, because we want to work for the profession in Africa, and we are 500,000. We are organizing our workshop. This is a platform to talk about everything, to exchange and foster our profession to go ahead. Thank you very much.
Hello, I am Myke Kudlas from the American Society of Radiologic Technologists, and it's a pleasure to be here with you today. It's always an honor to be able to participate in an ISRRT event. Today we'll be discussing remote scanning and patient safety. Specifically, we'll be talking about how remote scanning is used here in the US. We'll discuss some of the safety concerns that we have about remote scanning. And we'll talk about how ASRT is ensuring that RTs are a central component of remote scanning practice. So first of all, what is remote scanning? Well, it's right there in the title. It's scanning that happens remotely, but it's very powerful. It's the ability to fully control imaging equipment from a geographically distant site. You have total control over the mouse, over the equipment. You can see everything on the display that a technologist would see who's on site. There's live video, audio, and chat functions so that there can be communication between the two sites. And it's currently being used for CT, MR, PET MR, PET CT, and SPECT CT. So what does the workflow look like? Well, there's three main arrangements that can happen in a single institution, whether the technologist is maybe scanning from home or scanning from another part of a clinic or hospital. It can happen with a single institution with multiple locations. So maybe it's a health system that has 3 or 4 different clinics throughout the city or in a larger geographical area. Or a vendor could be scanning multiple locations, even as far away as another continent. So it can be very powerful that way. Using remote scanning technology, one technologist can scan up to 3 separate patients at a time. So what are the benefits of remote scanning? Well, the biggest one in my mind is equipment training. The ability of a technologist to get training on site using the equipment that they're going to be using, having a distant technologist log in and show them, provide the training, rather than them traveling to another site, that's very powerful. Also great for uncommon exams. Say there's a technologist in an institution that's very good at cardiac MR. Rather than having patients having to travel to their site, they can go to the nearest site. The technologist can scan them remotely at that site. Same sort of thing happens for rural areas. Rather than patients having to drive a long distance to get specialized care and specialized scanning, they can drive to a local facility that might have a CT or MR scanner, and somebody could log in remotely and perform that scan there so that the patient doesn't have to travel. There's 3 other benefits that I'm not quite sure are benefits, but they've been discussed as benefits. We are having a staffing shortage in the US. Does it help to alleviate the staffing shortage? Maybe to a small degree, but there still needs to be a person there with the patient, putting them onto the scanner and getting them positioned. Efficiency, scanning 3 patients at one time could be efficient for the short term. We'll talk about that in just a second. And then infection control, when you think about COVID-19 and things like that, if somebody's scanning remotely, they don't have to worry about infection control, but there still, again, has to be somebody with the patient there, getting them on the scanner, getting them positioned appropriately. The safety issues, there's really 4 of them, 4 major ones that I've been able to find. The biggest one is this fallacy of multitasking. People often say they can multitask, but really the human brain, in most cases, is not capable of multitasking. It really does lower productivity. It slows task completion, decreases quality, and increases stress for the person doing the multitasking. So maybe in the short term, but not in the long term. MR safety is a real concern. In the US, we have people that are MR level 2 certified, meaning, or trained, meaning that they they understand all of the safety protocols. They can appropriately screen patients before they go into the room. They ensure that people do not go into an MR scanner with, an oxygen tank or something like that. That's really difficult to control access remotely. And emergency response, if there's a magnet quench, if there was a code, a cardiac event, really difficult to deal with an emergency response from a distance. And kind of getting back to the remote operator again, yes, you can probably multitask for a short period of time, but doing 3 scans for an 8-hour shift, there's going to be a lot of fatigue, and with fatigue comes errors. So the core question here is, can a remote radiologic technologist meet the safety requirements of the profession? Here in the US, the ASRT has practice standards. And the practice standards are authoritative statements established by the profession to judge the quality of practice, service, and education. And these practice standards are used by states, by institutions, and legal advisors when trying to answer questions about professional activities, so whether somebody can do a task or not. And I just randomly pulled 4 separate practice standard statements that I think would be really difficult for somebody to be able to accomplish in a remote situation. A lot of it has to do with safety, removing items that might affect the quality of the exam, really hard to do from a distance. Appropriately positioning people, making sure that they're not going to get a burn in an MR scanner, really difficult to do remotely. MR screening, we kind of talked about that, and determining a course of action in an emergent situation, really difficult to do from a distance. So what has ASRT done to respond to this? Well, we're still a little bit early in the process. Remote scanning has been used for a while, but mainly for training, and it hasn't really impacted patient care. But now that it's being used for patient care, we want to try to get ahead of it. ASRT really believes that any individual who's legally authorized to perform medical imaging or radiation therapy procedures must be educationally prepared and clinically competent. So we dealt with CT remote scanning at our House of Delegates meeting in June by adding a couple statements to the practice standards. And really these statements are intended to ensure that there is a registered technologist who is physically present on site with the patient to ensure quality, to ensure safety of that patient, so that the entire exam isn't being produced by somebody who is remote. And we're currently working on the same thing for MRI. We have 2 different statements here that we're working on. This is draft language here. We'll be discussing this next summer. And again, it's to verify that not just a registered technologist in this case, but a technologist with that level 2 personnel training, somebody who's trained specifically in MR safety, is present there with the patient, is appropriately screening people, appropriately screening the patient before they enter the room. So as a radiographer and a radiological technologist, what should you do? Well, what you're doing right now, which is to learn more about remote scanning. It's an emerging technology. There's not a lot out there written about it yet, but keeping up on remote scanning and learning all you can about it is really important. Updating society documents if you haven't already. If you have society documents, to include remote scanning and to include language about a technologist, a radiographer on site during that procedure. And working with manufacturers and vendors to ensure the appropriate use of remote scanning technologies. Again, it's nothing to be afraid of. It's a very powerful tool, and there's a lot of benefits to it. So working with the vendors to make sure that it's being used appropriately. And then promoting institutional policies that keep radiographers and radiological technologists on site and in control of patient safety. That's the number 1 thing, and it really happens there at that institutional level, ensuring that there's an institutional policy that there will always be an appropriately trained person on site working with the patient to ensure safety, quality, etc. There's a few other open questions which we won't go into right now, just in terms of scanning across state lines, provincial lines, international lines. Cybersecurity is always an issue, and then anytime patient data is being shared remotely, you want to ensure patient privacy, that sort of thing. But remote scanning really is an evolving technology that shows promise in certain situations, but we just need to be vigilant to ensure that it's being used safely in order to provide the best possible care for our patients. So again, I'd like to thank the ISRRT for the invitation to speak today, and I look forward to any questions that you may have. I'd also like to quickly wish everybody a happy World Radiography Day from the American Society of Radiologic Technologists, and thank you for everything that you do to ensure safety to our patients around the world.
I am Sigurd Sundland, radiographer for about 7 years, working out of Rinnevi Hospital in Norrköping, Sweden. It is a medium-sized hospital in the middle of the country. Currently, I am positioned as a section chief of conventional X-ray examinations and studying for my master's. I am also involved in research and the development of advancement for the radiographer profession. This session concerns patient safety and how we as radiographers not only are the one who examines patients, but we also have a responsibility to keep our patients both safe physically and mentally during the course of their short visit to the radiology department. Our patients face a plethora of risks when they enter our department, and it is our job to minimize these risks. Moving a laying patient between bed and examination table, injecting contrast medium, setting needles, giving pharmaceuticals, reducing radiation dose as much as possible, moving heavy machinery around patients, and providing the right amount of information to these patients. These are only some of the tasks we as radiographers are supposed to perform each day, and all of these tasks contain potential risk to the patient. In Sweden, we are responsible for the patient throughout the examination process, from the moment the patient walks into our lab and to the second he or she leaves the premises. This is called the peri-radiographic process, which contains both care of the patient and care of the technical aspects of the examination. In Scandinavian countries, our education spans over 3 years and includes a sizable amount of patient care, both practical. Because of this, we are provided with a lot of experience and comprehension of patient safety. The Swedish competency description for registered radiographers states in the field of quality and patient safety that we are bound to keep our patient information secret and safe from outside the clinic. We should initiate the work with improving routines for image quality and patient safety. We need to quality control the imaging equipment. We need to do risk assessments for the situations where a patient could be hurt or compromised. We also need to document and handle every situation of a patient incident, and do patient safety analysis to ensure the minimizing of patient incidents. Documenting and reporting patients' incidents are an important part of a radiographer in countries. Reports like these are called synergies. These reports are never to point blame at any one person, rather it's to shed a light over potential systematic problems that could pose a risk to the patient system. Close care is growing in Sweden, which also could increase patient safety in many Swedish counties. Many elderly patients are experiencing long waiting times at the emergency room and but the requirement of patient safety will also always stay the same. Responsibility of a radiographer also owning the time which is given to us with each individual before, during, and after the examination. To maintain patient safety is as much our job or providing quality imaging. Thanks. That is everything for me.
Thank you all speakers. This is very, very interesting session that we had today. And thanks Myke, Kitiwat, Sigurd, and Boniface. If the audience has any questions, please feel free to post on the chat box so that I can refer your question to the speakers for today. And I think Donna got some technical difficulties, so she cannot join us at the moment. I will just go ahead and then get those questions that the audience posed to the speaker stand. The first question goes to Kitiwat. One question from the audience was do you have the software for calculating the patient dose at the moment for your therapeutic nuclear medicine at your center?
Yes, right, exactly. That's a good question. So at our center, we have this kind of the software for the treatment planning. So it means in each of case, especially for the theranostic like lutetium-177, we use this software for the routine service in our clinical service. Yes.
Oh, okay. Very interesting. And what is really the role of nuclear medicine technologists in your center in terms of patient safety? Because we are the one who treat the patient or examine the patient. So what is your routine for the technologists in your center to do as the forefront of patient safety in nuclear medicine?
Well, that's a good question. So as I mentioned, for the theranostic, the patient underwent both of diagnostic and also for the treatment. So nuclear medicine technologists take the important role for the patient safety, like to help, like to involve in the team to evaluate the condition of the patients, and then like during the scan. So because the patient have to like to do the imaging after the treatment. So sometimes most of the patient come for the theranostic, the cancer metastase to the other organ. So sometimes they don't have the good condition. So this is the role of the technologists during the scanning of the patients. And then, yeah, right. Mm-hmm. And other the parameter that should be set up to scan the patient as well. Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Kitiwat. And next question go to Myke. Well, your presentation is very interesting. As radiographer educator here in Thailand and in this region, we have done a lot of training the technologists to scan, and we heard about this remote scan. So is it really gonna work in your opinion, and what kind of limitation that we might face with in terms of like legal aspect or professional standard aspect?
Yeah, that's everything that we're struggling with right now. Is, of course, here in the United States with 50 different states, every state has their own licensure laws, institutions have their own individual policies. So, again, in terms of, it is a powerful tool. It's if you're struggling with an exam, to be able to have an expert log in and help you is very powerful, but to run it solely from a distance without any radiographer on site, very dangerous. I mean, some of the things that even Sigurd was talking about, like patient falls, how do you prevent that remotely? Contrast reactions, all that sort of thing. So, I would liken it to, the modern airliners today are able to take off and land and fly on automatic pilot. But if I got onto an airplane and I saw there was no pilot sitting at the control, I would turn around and leave. So, it would be similar to that.
Yeah, I think, in my opinion, we have discussed about this in back home, because we don't have that many specialist technologists running like advanced CT or MRI. So it would be good if we have like qualified technologists on site, and these people who are like super technologists can be on the headquarters or something and help the junior technologists to run. And that's what I think to optimize the patient safety at the moment, because in my opinion, we can't let non-qualified persons to take care of the patient on site. That's what I think.
Yeah, correct. And it's also, it's a great way to become that specialized technologist is to learn from that remote specialized technologist. So as an educational tool, it's great, but we can't give up our responsibility for patient care and just allow these things to be done remotely without a qualified radiographer on site.
Yeah, thank you, Myke. And next question go to Boniface. We know that you have done a lot in terms of patient safety in Africa. Would you elaborate a little bit what kind of big challenge that you face with in terms of promoting the role of radiographer as the forefront of patient safety?
Well, hello, everyone. In Africa, we really working with ISRT. ISRT is really working in the field of education and professional practice. So we organizing every year at least 3 workshops for capacity building workshops, and then even in conferences, in security. That will be in medical, or radiation protection. And we also working with the WHO, providing technical assistance to integrate the medical imaging in the strategy of universal health coverage. Because generally what we have noticed is that in the policies, national policies of health, well, there's not medical imaging. It's not taken into account like laboratory sciences. So that since last year, we're really working closely with WHO to improve that in the region. And all the radiographers are really sensibilized. They're really involved in the process. And that's what we're doing here.
All right. Thank you, Boniface. We will get back to you later if we get another question. And now it's time for Sigurd. Thank you so much for your impressive presentation. And what we heard was about the role of radiographers in terms of justification. So how can you, radiographer, deal with justification on the requested imaging? I know that things can be complicated, like in general radiography, in CT and things. So how would you deal with this in your practice?
Yeah, especially in child imaging. If a child comes in with unclear pain and you get referrals for the whole arm and a whole leg for about 25 images, most of us would call the referral doctor and say that this is not justified. He should get another doctor, another doctor to look at him, or explain how many images those examination contain, because most referring doctors, they don't know too much about medical imaging. So they just order, but they don't know about radiation protection or imaging, how many images this needs, if those images are needed even. So we would, in extreme cases, we would just take the images that we think is needed, or contact the doctor directly.
Okay. So in general, would those referral physicians listen to us?
In many cases, yeah, I think so. Some cases they stand their ground, but we could always get backing for a radiologist.
Okay, that's a good way, and this is proof that we really are the forefront for patient safety, because justification is like the gatekeeper for the standard of practice. So. Yeah. Today is very phenomenal what we have discussed from the experts from all around the world, and to conclude the session, I would like each of you to say some words to our radiographers colleagues all around the world about this special World Radiography Day, and especially the theme of this year about radiographers at the forefront of patient safety. Let's start with Kitiwat. What do you want to say? Just anything you like to say to our colleagues from all around the world.
Yeah. So I would like to say that the radiographer play an important role in the forefront for the patient safety. So we are like the clinical practice. So we need to combine like our knowledge and also the practice in order to maintain the safety of the patient and also to improve the quality of the life of.
Oh, that's great. Mm-hmm. And Myke, now it's your turn.
Yeah, well, first of all, I just want to say thank you to everybody for being a radiographer, for being a radiological technologist, and for everything that you do to help our patients around the world. Things like this are really inspiring when we get an international audience together to know that everybody's working together for the safety of our patients. And it's not just radiation safety. Safety is a much larger word. It's medication safety and preventing patient falls and everything. So thanks for everything you do to promote patient safety around the world.
Thank you, Myke. And now Boniface, is your turn.
Okay, thank you. I will just tell you, radiographers in Africa, that ISRT provides quality patient care and then security. And that's why we provide education, good education to develop their skills. And we all have to show commitment and then get involvement of the work we do. And that's how we can bring Africa to the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Boniface, and thanks a lot for the work you have done during the past years. And I know that you will keep doing the good work in the future for our profession and our patients. And now it's your turn, Sigurd.
Thank you. I just want to remind every radiographer how important their occupation is and how many lives we save or help save daily. Many of us just do our job mostly and maybe not think about it, but it is an extremely important occupation, and we really are saving lives. So I would thank every radiographer out there.
Thank you. And it's time to conclude. And on behalf of Donna Newman, our president, and the board of management of ISRRT, I would like to wish all radiographers and radiological technologists happy World Radiography Day. And I'm sure that we all going to keep doing our best to take care of our patient, especially this year we have a theme of radiographers at the forefront of patient safety. So we need to prove to the world that we do care for our patients. And again, thanks a lot for all the speakers from all around the world, Kitiwat, Myke, Boniface, and Sigurd. And on November 8th, which is the World Radiography Day, we do hope that all radiographers and technologists from all around the world would share the photo of the activities that you celebrate our special day together and send to our CEO so that we can post on our Facebook page and also our website. And again, thanks a lot for everyone and have a nice day. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.